Hey everybody, this is Matthew Poes of Poes Acoustics and AUDIOHOLICS, and I'm here with my good buddy Gene from, of course, AUDIOHOLICS. We are jammed in a little tiny hallway just trying to find a place that's quiet to do a little video together, but we've been hanging out, checking out some rooms. So Gene, thanks for coming on.
Awesome to be here, man. Yeah, this is a crazy show. It's really busy. Lots of great audio gear to listen to and demo, and it's just good vibes here.
Absolutely. The show has grown tremendously. I heard that it's already a record year and they don't even know what the number is. They just know it's better than the other year. There's been a lot of cool rooms that we've been able to check out. By the way, we're doing this video as a little crossover between our channels because you guys know me from Gene's channel. That's actually where I did most of my YouTube video. I have my own channel doing goofy little things here and there, but of course I've done some pretty cool videos and we have a lot of coverage of the show as well to give you guys a bit of everything. Gene, I know you spent a lot of time over at the Perlisten booth. Obviously, we've been very involved with Perlisten. It's a brand that we support and like quite a bit. Well, why don't we start with that? What did you learn over there? What was new or interesting in talking to those guys?
Well, first of all, I think it's really cool at this channel expo, but there's multi-channel demos, and Perlisten's one of two of the multi-channel demos at the show. And we're hoping that this is a trend that starts now and they start expanding for next year, because we want to see more multi-channel music demos, right? Audiophile isn't just limited to 2 channels. So they did a good job with Dream Media. On one side, they had the 5.2.2 system with the R series speakers and 2 R212S subwoofers, I believe.
Yeah.
And they used Premier audio electronics. They use separates to do the Dolby Atmos.
Apparently it's pronounced Premier. I've been mispronouncing it for years. So yeah, Premier. And it's very cool. So I asked them about that.
Yeah.
I did a little video over there. Apparently it's a 11-channel processor. And then the amplifier is an 8-channel Hypex amplifier using Encore modules. And it's actually priced really good for what it is. So I was very impressed. I think it's like $5,500 for the amp. So for an 8-channel amp,
that is good.
That's pretty good, yeah.
And you know it's a good solid Class D platform.
Yeah, exactly. They were telling me the key to differentiating theirs from other Encores was just the power supply design, which makes sense. And I actually wouldn't mind if we could get one in for review to see how good it is.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a nice demo because you got to actually hear some height effects. They played like Quiet Place, and even though you could hear the HVAC noise, you could still pick up those subtle details of like stuff falling in the shelves in the background when the monsters are chasing the people. And it just goes to show you that DPC array is really effective, even as a height channel. This is the first time I actually was able to hear that speaker up, not their in-ceiling, but it's still the same DPC array firing down into the listening area. And they only had 2 height channels, but it was still very immersive.
Yeah.
But of course, my favorite thing at Perlisten is the S7T limited edition. And I told Dan, Dan, I think these speakers sound like they're tuned differently. Like I hear more presence in the mid-range and treble. And he went through a whole explanation. It's in our video about how when he retuned the system, especially with the bass, there's just more, there's more dynamics in the speaker. There's more transient behavior that you can hear through how the subwoofers are tuned. Also, the DPC array is on that aluminum heatsink, so it gives better heat dissipation. And you upgraded some parts in the crossover. So it makes an audible difference. Not that the S7T is bad by any means. I'll be reference.
The SE was one of the best sounding speakers I'd ever heard in my life. The LEs are a better sounding speaker.
They really are.
It goes from among the best to even better yet.
And then that's not the end for Perlisten. I talked to Dan, and they're going to take this brand up a notch. So I can't wait to see what's in store in 2025 for them.
Yeah. They're using very high quality drivers as is, but there's always room for better yet. There's a company here, Morrison, that apparently is using solid silver induction coils in the motor system of their woofers. I don't even want to know what that costs, but I think we should tell Dan that he needs to do solid gold maybe in his.
God. No, that was a highlight of the show. Of course, did you get a chance to hear the SBS room?
I was there briefly, so it sounds like you got a better demo than I did. I heard it with the subwoofers, and I thought the whole system sounded impressive, but you heard it stereo with just those speakers, and you said it was loading the room really well, the bass.
It was really incredible, and I actually got up and I put my hand on the subwoofers just to make sure they weren't pulling a fast one on me. But the Evolution Towers, it was their flagship model. I think it's called the Pinnacle. I might be wrong on that. But what I heard in that room was deep extended bass, but more importantly, it wasn't boomy, and there was no room treatments in there. He even put on some Billie Eilish stuff, which tends to sound a little boomier with their bass because it's an electronic bass.
They like their bass.
But the way that speaker loaded into the room, and they used the force canceling woofer, so you got 3/8 on the front, I think 3/8 on the back, and then the separate chambers. It just, I don't know if it's the right term, Matt. You're probably going to tell me I'm wrong, but I think the modal density of how that speaker loads into the room, especially because those woofers are closer to the back wall, is different than just a conventional driver array. And it just sounded really even and distributed.
So modal density is probably not the right word, but what it's doing then is loading the room in such a way where the way it excites modes is different. That's totally possible. If the radiation pattern is not totally omnidirectional, which would be typical of most speakers, that could affect it. The other part of it is, yes, for sure, when you've got some of your low frequency sources closer to a boundary, that changes the way it's not modes, actually, it's the SBIR effect.
It raises the frequency rate.
Yeah, and often it's easier to deal with and less concern. The whole reason of bringing a speaker out into the room farther helps with SBIR. It makes it so low that it becomes below the operating range of the speaker. But as you know, because your speakers are down to 10 hertz, they're full bandwidth, that doesn't really work in your favor when they're full bandwidth speakers way out.
Absolutely.
Has some issues still. Well, yeah, SBS, I think that's an exciting product because it's so different from anything they've done before. They've never really gone into that market sector. And as I recall, it's not that expensive either.
$5,000 a pair for the flagship towers and their time aligned. So there's a curvature in the cabinet and all the drivers are acoustically time aligned.
Yeah. So really not a lot of money for something of that caliber. I mean, it's a pretty high-end speakers design. That's something not that long ago. Something with that kind of design approach probably would have been easily 4 or 5 times that price. And you wouldn't see that in lower price products. So that's very cool. The Perlisten stuff obviously has been very cool. I've checked out a few other rooms. The one you just Diptych, which is also part of Fidelity Imports products. That is basically like a planar speaker, kind of like Magnapan speakers, but they're very cool looking. I mean, even if you don't like the sound, they're actually a very cool looking speaker to stick in a room.
They would blend into a room real cool, a conversational piece. And the fact that they're able to produce bass, like real substantial bass, is impressive. Now, they configure those speakers so the high-frequency drivers were on the outside of the speaker. You don't get the precise imaging like you would if you reversed it, but they were trying to get a good sweet spot for the whole listening area because it's loaded with people.
These rooms are tough.
So to get a proper demo of that speaker, you really need to reverse the left and right. Because I heard that last year. I heard their flagship, a 3-way version of it, and I heard the sound kind of beam into your head. And that's one of the kind of things I like about planar magnetic.
The really narrow dispersion does give you that really tight focused imaging. We're getting some interesting background music while we're trying to do this interview. So, all right, I'm going to call this video and say thanks, Gene, again for coming on. I really appreciate your time. It's nice to have some crossover between our channels and get more people, common audience. I found out today, apparently somebody put together a list of the top YouTube channels in our industry. Of course, AUDIOHOLICS was on there, as you would expect, but apparently mine was too.
Nice.
So that was impressive. I got a message saying I'm famous now, but I mean, of course I am, right?
It's better than being infamous.
That's true. All right, so Gene, again, thank you. Oh, I should say this, since I've been doing some sappy videos here, I mentioned to Steve that he was very pivotal and important in me launching my company brand. Gene, you obviously have also been extremely important in me launching my career in this industry and encouraging me. In fact, you and I have conversations on a probably daily basis about the need to support each other. You've been very helpful and supportive over the years. So thank you very much and appreciate you.
All right, guys, keep listening.